Clubs. In Cube, there are activities like in most schools. You can say it's like a small organization operated by cadets, academics, martial arts, hands-on experience, hobbies, etc. The background is that there are about 100 various clubs in Cube. Also, in addition to self-improvement, the club also acts as a socializing platform between cadets. Today Hajin participated in such a club. At the gate of Cube, when he arrived there, he was then greeted by Han Hyun, the head of the travel club, Healing Train. Han Hyun thanked them for participating today in their travel club. Han Hyun also lamented, there are many great people among the new members this year. When receiving the registration form, he wondered if this was real. He felt anxious, seeing that. His juniors then asked him to take a deep breath. They also felt anxious. After regaining his composure, Han Hyun then explained about their travel club, Healing Train, to the new members. The main purpose of their club is rest. They will use the portal to travel outside the Cube once or twice a month. They plan to go to a place near here today for their group socialization. They will go to Seoul. Hearing that, Hajin seemed to have known it from the beginning. A trip to Seoul where people are free to do whatever they want with 2 people each in a group, just like what he wrote in the novel. His destination today was the Seoul Weapons Museum, the place where the main story first started. He would go with the protagonist there and quietly slip into the main story. After explaining where they were going today, Han Hyun then said, now, for the group formation, go up and take the draw. Everyone. Hajin was quite surprised when he heard they needed to take the draw. He then asked, was this how the groups were formed originally? He didn't seem to write about it, but he didn't really mind. Whoever he chose, he could just work alone. The person who took the draw this time was Yona, and on the draw paper it turned out that Kim Hajin's name was written, so the 2 of them would be in the same group. Hajin didn't seem to expect that. Yona then came to him and said, they should just separate. Hearing that, Hajin could only say yes, but when Yona was about to walk away, she then suddenly stopped, with a threatening look directed at him. She warned. She already said not to talk informally to her. This is his second warning. There won't be a third. Hearing that, Hajin replied okay. After some time, Hajin finally arrived at the Seoul Weapons Museum. This is the National Weapons Museum. This museum has the largest weapon replica exhibition in Korea. While he was walking leisurely there, he then saw Chai Nayeon, who was looking at the replica weapons on display there. Because he saw Chai Nayeon there, then not far from here, after looking at it for a moment, he then finally saw Kim Suho, who was not far from there. He was also seen looking at the weapons on display there. When Hajin walked towards him, Kim Suho seemed to realize his existence. Hajin then asked, was he looking at the 7-pronged sword? Kim Suho then confused and surprised to hear him suddenly ask him like that. Realizing his confusion, Hajin then immediately introduced himself. Hearing his name, Kim Suho then apologized. He immediately forgot. He then remembered that he was the one who chose the gun as his weapon. He didn't expect him to join the travel club too. Seeing his attitude, Hajin then thought, Kim Suho is strong, handsome, and likes justice. He was criticized by readers. They said this protagonist was not similar to reality. While Hajin was thinking about him, Kim Suho said it looks like there is a gun exhibition there. He then invited Hajin to see it. He heard that Napoleon's rifle was on display there, but Hajin refused his invitation, and said, it seemed they would not have time for it. The museum building suddenly shook violently. The visitors there could only stare confused at it. The speakers there then turned on, and an officer then warned the visitors there. Monsters had appeared outside the museum. They were then very anxious to hear that. The officer then warned once again. Monsters had appeared outside the museum. Just as the warning sound disappeared, the visitors then woke up from their shock, and fled from there. The scene was very chaotic. Because of their panic, there was even a child who was pushed, but, suddenly there was a very loud sound of breaking glass. The sound turned out to be caused by Chai Nayeon. She really hit the glass hard until it broke. They were then shocked to see it. Kim Suho who saw it too, but this way, the situation returned to calm. Chai Nayeon told them to calm down. The hero assigned to the museum would definitely arrive soon. If they went out in a situation like this, they would only become the intake of monsters. When Chai Nayeon broke the glass and took the bow that was there, a warning sound then appeared. Broken glass box. Theft of exhibition items. confirmed, lower the blockade. Right when the sound appeared, the museum's security system then appeared covering the entire room. Not caring about that, Chai Nayun then told Kim Suho to take the weapons that were there too. They had to stand guard until the hero came, although the shock was not over, but he then replied that he understood, but they were then immediately surprised by the sound of footsteps. A very evil aura enveloped the person who had just appeared. Seeing that, Chai Nayun then immediately became alert. That person was the main enemy of this episode, Jin. Hajin, who saw his appearance, then thought, the Jin, Lucius's dog. He was the villain who became the protagonist's development assistant. Very sharp nails suddenly appeared from the 5 fingers of the Jin. He then immediately rushed towards Chai Nayun, but Kim Suho suddenly sneaked attack from behind him. The scene was seen by Hajin. This was exactly like in the novel. He was sure Kim Suho should be able to defeat him easily. But, even before Kim Suho's attack landed on the Jin then knocked him out strongly. It left Kim Suho glued to the wall. The look of disbelief was clear on Hajin's face when he saw that. He really couldn't process what had just happened. Seeing Kim Suho lying on the ground, Hajin thought, something was strange. The story he wrote was not like this. At the beginning they were a little under pressure, but then it became a battle where Kim Suho released his power, and the enemies were extremely strong. Chai Nayun was also very surprised when she saw it. She then repeatedly called Kim Suho. Suho's injury seemed to be severe enough to make him cough up blood. Seeing that, Chai Nayun then asked, was he okay? With a stammering voice, Suho replied that he was fine. He then tried to get back up even though with difficulty. Hajin realized that Suho's condition was not so good. He needed time to recover, but what they didn't have now was time. Not letting them rest for a moment, the Jin then immediately re-prepared his attack. Chai Nayun realized that. She then immediately shot her arrow at the Jin. The Jin didn't even bother to dodge and let the arrow pierce his body. The Jin just smiled slightly and didn't seem to be in any pain at all. Chai Nayun was then shocked to see that, but she didn't give up hope, and shot his arrow at the Jin once more, and again. The Jin did not dodge the arrow at all. He smiled a little as if mocking her. Chai Nayun felt very horrified when she saw that. Her hands shook violently due to fear. She knew it was not a special ability or healing. That bastard stood up to her successive attacks with only courage. The Jin seemed to be no longer in the mood to play with her. Hajin seemed to realize that, seeing the Jin who was quickly heading towards her. Hajin then worriedly called Chai Nayun's name and immediately told her to run, but it seemed too late, because the Jin quickly arrived in front of her, and was about to pounce on her with his claws, but fortunately, before the attack could land, Kim Suho then came to save her. He asked if she was okay, but Chai Nayun knew that the danger they were currently facing was not over yet. She then immediately told Kim Suho to refocus his gaze on the Jin. The Jin got up so fast after receiving his kick, and immediately attacked him again. And while Kim Suho was struggling to resist the Jin's attack, the black aura controlled by the Jin suddenly transformed into a dragon. Kim Suho was then surprised to see that. He then immediately became overwhelmed when the dragon pressed him. It made him fall to the ground. And in the midst of this desperate situation, an arrow suddenly shot from behind the Jin which then hit his back. The arrow certainly came from Chai Nayun. The Jin seemed to be angry at her interference, and he then immediately attacked her. Chai Nayun really couldn't react to his fast attack. She then could only let herself be hit by the attack until she hit the wall behind her. Seeing that, Hajin knew that this was bad. If it continued like this, someone could die. He then shouted, telling everyone there to run. He was sure he was the one who wrote this novel. Then why was the content different from what he knew? He then tried to calm himself down first, for now, he had to do what he could, and as he took out his ammunition, he then realized that he wouldn't even be able to scratch the Jin with this bullet. It was impossible to deal fatal damage even if he increased the destructive power, but, as long as they were still in the world of his novel, the major plot would not change. In that case, Hajin then used his SP to change the settings of the mana bullet. The attributes of the mana bullet had now changed. The destructive power changed to 6. This consumed a total of 104 SP. Hajin then reloaded his gun using the magic bullet he had just changed, and thought, the reason this world needs so many heroes is because attributes and synastry become different in strength, and can make individuals very strong. He then positioned himself to aim at the Jin. He was sure the Jin was dark attribute, and that weakened the darkness. Just as he was about to pull the trigger, Hajin then called Kim Suho, who was fighting against the jinn. He told him to immediately dodge away. What he changed from the magic bullet was its attribute, which was now light. The bullet contained the essence of light, which could create an instant explosion in the body. And Hajin then pulled the trigger. His shot successfully hit the jinn. Right after that, a very bright light then lit up from the bullet he fired. The shot surprisingly managed to break the jinn's hand. The jinn screamed in pain because of that, and Chai Nyan, who had been smothered by his hand, finally managed to free herself. Hajin's hand shook violently after firing that one shot. But it managed to make Kim Suho get enough time to release his power. This time, he bought more than enough time. With a look at Kim Suho, he then silently asked him, "Right?" With such a great aura surrounding him, Kim Suho then attacked the jinn again, the sword saint's magic power that can cut everything. Now, it's finally over. The jinn screamed in pain after being hit by the slash. He really managed to finish the jinn with one strike of his sword, but releasing such a powerful attack did not seem easy for Kim Suho. Chai Nyan was still in shock because he almost met her death. Seeing that, Kim Suho then approached her and asked if she was okay, and when he was about to extend his hand towards her, his hand was suddenly brushed off by Chai Nyan. Kim Suho could only feel confused seeing that. Seeing the scene, Hajin then told him to just let her be. He was sure her brother would soon come and comfort her, because that was also what happened in the novel. But he was then confused when he looked at the two of them. A shocked expression could be clearly seen on their faces when they heard what he just said. With an expression of disbelief, Chai Nyan then asked what he had just said. But before she could ask further, she suddenly vomited a mouthful of blood. Kim Suho then called her worriedly when he saw that, outside the museum, there was now a monster attack as warned earlier, but fortunately, there was a hero who managed to solve the monster. The hero turned out to be Yun Sung-ah. Seeing that there were no more monsters attacking, she then asked if it was over. A medical officer then called her, and reported that the emergency situation outside the museum had been handled. Yun Sung-ah was grateful to hear that. She then asked what about the situation inside the museum. The medical officer replied, a jinn appeared, but he was immediately treated. At the time of the incident, there were only 3 cube cadets there. Hearing that, Yun Sung-ah said that it was commendable. She then asked, who were they? The medic replied, they were Chai Nyan, Kim Suho and, before the medic could even finish his words, he was then surprised when he saw Yun Sung-ah running into the museum in a hurry. Yun Sung-ah felt that she was very lucky. She had the opportunity to meet Kim Suho in a place like this. She also wondered what she should say first when meeting him, and when she saw Hajin who had just come out of the museum, she thought this was perfect. Hajin was surprised when he saw someone suddenly running towards him. When she arrived in front of him, Yun Sung-ah greeted him, but when she was about to ask Kim Suho's whereabouts, Hajin had already answered that Kim Suho was inside, so she was grateful to hear that. Hajin knew exactly what she meant without having to listen to her full question, and as Yun Sung-ah walked inside, she suddenly realized something. She was confused as to how he knew she was looking for Kim Suho, whether he knew Yun Sung-ah's surprise or not. Hajin was currently sitting in a nearby park to calm himself down. Yun Sung-ah suddenly spoke to him surprise. He became suspicious. Was this situation also related to the changing story? So he decided to check it out. The situation was roughly like this. A strange character named Kim Hajin became visible, but he was not important. So far, everything was progressing without problems, so, he must not be important enough to get involved in. But he suddenly realized something. He had completely forgotten. This novel had a co-author. This world was a remake version of the novel he wrote. If this world was based on what the person who sent the email had written, then it made sense that he would be unable to predict what would happen. If that was the case, it was possible that the predictions he had made based on his novel were now useless. He really couldn't accept it when he came to that conclusion, and in the midst of his shock, he was then surprised again. When he saw a message appear from his notebook, and when he opened the message, the words appeared, one flaw, the protagonist and the surrounding characters never meet danger. If this continues, then there is a risk. It made the readers tired of the boring repetition. When the characters in the novel face danger, the readers would think, eventually the protagonist will come to the rescue, and as Hajin continued to read the message, he then felt disbelief in what he was reading. One emergency step. For now, the level of the enemy would increase, although it would end in chaos. It was already late afternoon. Kim Soo-hyuk, who was also there, then called Kim Soo-ho and Hajin. He had heard a glimpse of what happened. He said he would ask more specifically later, so he told them to go back now. Hearing that, Soo-ho then asked, "What about Na-yeon?" Kim Soo-hyuk said she took sick leave and went with her family. The two of them also had to return to the cube as soon as possible. After saying that, Kim Soo-hyuk then walked away. The atmosphere of silence suddenly enveloped the two of them, but Kim Soo-ho then suddenly called him. He asked, about before. Why did he say something like that to Na-yeon? Hajin was then confused to hear that. He then asked, what did he say? Soo-ho answered, about his brother. Actually, it was because his brother was a little. At this time, a message suddenly appeared from his notebook, a point about criticism. Hajin then immediately asked, what is it about his brother? Hearing that, Soo-ho asked, did he pretend not to know? Hajin could only feel confused hearing that. Soo-ho was annoyed at his attitude. He then decided not to care anymore and said he would talk about it later. Chai Na-yeon, previously ranked 4th in the entire military agent academy, currently joined the Hero Realization Facility, Cube, family relationship, Chai Shin-hyuk as her father, and Chai Jin-yoon as her brother. Seeing her data, Hajin thought, this is still in accordance with the arrangement, but he was confused as to why their reactions were like that. But as he reread carefully, he then saw the news related to Chai Na-yeon's brother, Chai Shin-hyuk's son, Chai Jin-yoon, currently in critical condition due to a Jin attack. Firespark's operation was successful. Newcomer hero Chai Jin-yoon is in a coma. Hero Chai Jin-yoon successfully saved 3 of his comrades during the process of fighting a Jin attack and is currently in a coma. Hajin was really shocked when he read the news. Jin suppression Firespark. It was the first chance that the main character assistant, Chai Jin-yoon, got his victory. Chai Na-yeon, who was 13 years old at the time, was so proud of her brother, who became a hero, or at least that's how he had set it up. While he was contemplating that, he was then surprised when he got a message back. He then opened the message, notification. This message will be given after the subject. Kim Hajin knows the setting change. Chai Jin-yoon in the original work, he was Chai Na-yeon's reliable older brother and Kim Soo-ho's assistant. However, in this world, while on a mission, he was dying. The main character was considered to have too many assistants, so the setting has changed with the words below. The point of change, 4 years ago, Chai Jin-yoon, after being appointed as a hero, got an accident in his first assignment. He received a demon's brand and has become a demon seed. Hajin really couldn't believe it when he read that. He didn't expect it to be like this. In someone's room, there was a news voice reporting, around 1 p.m. today, a horde of monsters had appeared in the center of Seoul. Due to the sudden appearance of the monsters, about 50 citizens were injured and 7 died. In the suppression center was Yoon Sang-na, the vice guild president of the Essence of the Strait, and other heroes. Hearing the news report from the radio, the room owner then turned it off. The place turned out to be a hospital ward. The room owner looked depressed while hugging her knees. Shortly after that, a man then entered while worriedly calling her by name. She turned out to be Chai Na-yeon, and the man was her father. Na-yeon was then surprised when she saw her father. She then asked, what about his work? Hearing her question, her father asked her, did she think work was more important? He then worriedly asked, how she felt. Was she okay? Na-yeon said she was fine. Even so, her father still asked, was it okay not to do a deeper examination? He could tell the doctor, but before he could finish his sentence, Na-yeon then interrupted him and told him to relax. This is not something serious. She also asked, why did he come all the way here? Her father replied, it was because he was worried about her. Na-yeon felt a little guilty hearing his concern. She then replied again that she was fine, but she then suddenly called her father and asked, could she go see her brother before she could go home from the hospital? Her father was a little surprised at her request. While holding her hand, he then replied, of course. A little explanation about demon seed. Demons, beings with entities higher than Jinn, can mark humans and make them into demon seed. Humans who have become seeds enter an incubation period where they sprout and blossom into powerful demons. In the arrangement, the incubation period has been made for 5 to 6 years, so half of that period has already passed. After getting approval from his father, Chai Na-yeon then visited the ward of her brother, Chai Jin-yoon. Hajin thought, there is only one solution to this convoluted situation. As quickly as possible, before the demon in Chai Jin-yoon's body wakes up, He must be killed immediately. Nayeon really did not know what Hajin was thinking now. She was now looking worriedly at her comatose brother. Hajin was confusedly thinking, but how? Who would do it? They wouldn't let anyone do this. There wouldn't be a mercenary who would accept a request to kill the fourth generation of a rich family. And since there are no indicators of the seed starting to sprout, so it's impossible to suggest taking action, it would be impossible for Kim Suho to defeat the demon that has fully bloomed. Even if the currently active heroes are mobilized, some of them won't be able to avoid being sacrificed, therefore, it must not happen. Their strength is still needed in the next part of the story. Realizing that, Hajin then hardened his heart and thought, then, in the end, he must kill him. Chai Nayeon was very happy to see her brother again. She then told all her recent experiences to her brother. It was the first time she saw a Jin. She almost died. She means, how can an ordinary cadet hurt the Jin, but that gunner? But Nayeon suddenly stopped and said, they better not talk about it. But while she was enjoying the time together with her brother, Nayeon was then surprised when someone said, the visiting time has ended. Nayeon then said that she understood. She also told her brother that she would come back, and when she was just out of her brother's ward, she suddenly stopped. She looked gloomy. She then recalled when Hajin said, leave her alone. He was sure her brother would come back and comfort her immediately. Her heart was filled with anger when she recalled that. She was really angry at Kim Hajin.